Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I'm really excited to have my guest today is Allan Tran. Hey, Allan.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So Allan is a filmmaker who's actually, he's been to the Sherman Oaks Film Festival twice. And needless to say, whenever a filmmaker has brought a film, he brought his film Valley to Sherman Oaks Film Festival in 2020. And it was an official selection for short-length drama. And it took home 2 awards. It took home Outstanding Short Film Drama and Outstanding Acting for a Cast Drama. And I'm a big fan of Valley. I think Valley is just a great film. And then I kind of feel like I know Allan even better because Allan came back 1 year later with the film Exits. And Exits is, I think I told you at the Q&A for that, I'm a huge fan of Valley. And then I see all kinds of growth in your filmmaking in Exits. So you brought Exits to Sherman Oaks Film Festival in 2021. We were back in the theater, had a great screening. People loved the film. And you took home the Grand Jury Award for Best Short Film Drama. And you took home the Filmmakers Award for Outstanding Performance by a Cast. So you're 2 for 2 winning an award for your cast, 2 for 2 winning short film drama. So, okay, the last part of this introduction, and then before we get into Allan's story, is that Allan's film Valley is going to be in the Discover Indie Film TV series. It's in season 6, episode 5. You can check it. Actually, please check it out. Just go to Amazon Prime Video, type in Discover Indie Film. And like I said, season 6, episode 5. A season is only $7.99, but this one's worth it. And you're supporting indie people. So that's my soapbox. I will hop off of my soapbox now and hand it over to Allan. Allan, as you know, I think you're a very talented filmmaker. And I warned you I was going to just ask you, what were your inspirations to get into filmmaking?
I first started, it was in high school. I think that's when I first decided that, I wanted to make films, or just be in, media. For the longest time, I thought I was going to, be a journalist. I was in the school newspaper, I did that after school and everything. But it was the end of freshman year. Me and my friends, we just kind of picked up my dad's old camcorder, shot some stupid videos, and our entire summer was just, that was what we did. We stopped playing video games. We played video games all the time up until, freshman year of high school. And that just became our video game, we just got better. We got better as we kept making, short films through high school. That led to me deciding, I'm going to go to film school. So, I went to Loyola Marymount and graduated, and, I haven't stopped making films since graduating. So it's, just trying to get better and find my voice.
And you were interested in journalism as a kid. Does that mean you were always kind of a writer? Were you a creative kid who wrote stories and things growing up?
Yeah. When I was younger, I would write these really short novels, and I'd go to Staples and get those plastic binding. I forget what they're called, but it's like plastic. You put the papers in, and then you kind of latch it, and it feels like a book. So I think when I was younger, that's what I was doing. Eventually, that writing kind of led to me wanting to write for publications and stuff. So hence the journalism. So it kind of evolved into that, but then it kind of swung back around into more of a creative space in filmmaking. So yeah, I don't know. I guess have an active imagination, and we try to kind of use filmmaking as an outlet for that.
For sure. And it sounds like, that was the promise of the consumer video camera, in a way that it would inspire people to understand the medium and get more into it. I think, just a decade or two before, to experiment with filmmaking, you had to develop film, I knew a couple kids with Super 8 cameras and stuff, but yeah, it's really cool that you and your friends were able to get your hands on a camera and just experiment. At that point, were you editing? Were you using couple VCRs linked together, or editing in camera?
Yeah, I credit like my childhood friend Brian Kwan. It was always me, Brian, and I had another friend. His name is Lee. It was just like we were the trio that made this stuff. But Brian was like he was very tech savvy, you know. So like he first decided to like you know what like let's just bring this into a computer. And you know we were shooting on DV tape, so we would just kind of like you know connect that to our computer, and then we started on some. I think it was like Microsoft Movie Maker or something like that. But that eventually evolves to we would get like bootleg versions of like Adobe Premiere at that time.
Which was a purely commercial version of film editing, right? The original Premiere
Exactly.
was something that editors looked at. Really, they looked down on it.
Exactly. You know, but it was our education. Like we self taught ourselves. You know, like Brian would. You know, Brian, by the way, he's a gaffer on Valley. You know, so we're still working together. Forgot to mention that part, but yeah, he was like the first to really kind of understand like, all right, how does this non-linear editing software work? And then I would learn something and I would teach him, and then he would learn something, he would teach me. So we were just constantly self-teaching ourselves and making ourselves better. So if it weren't for him, I think like I don't know, I probably would have tried the in-camera editing thing, but I think right off the bat we started to just start, you know, even with very basic software, just understand like how cuts are made, and like eventually we got Adobe Premiere, which is more advanced than Movie Maker. We would just like, all right, that's what an L cut is. How do you have audio go underneath something when you cut to somebody else? Like all that's very basic, but at that time, I just remembered like finding so much joy in like figuring something out that's like, oh, that's like a real movie. That's what real movies do, you know? We kind of did that. So yeah, it was just the curiosity of like, you know, and we eventually got better cameras and we just kind of actually learned like how they work. Lenses, you know, play a big factor, how to light things. And, you know, the self-teaching part was very rewarding. And I think, especially with your friends, like you just grow closer because of it.
For sure. And did it change the way you were watching films and TV at that point? Like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, in high school, that's when I first started. You know, my parents never really took me to the theater as a kid. So I kind of had to like come to that on my own, you know. You know, they were working all the time. So it's not that, you know, they hated movies or anything like that. You know, they're also, you know, first generation. You know, they don't quite have the breadth of movie knowledge as, you know, so, you know, especially a lot of the films here are Western films. So it didn't really appeal to them. They didn't quite have the time to take me to the movie. So in high school, a lot of my film education was like, um, I mean, I'm exposing myself a little bit, but like I would I would download movies off like LimeWire or something like that.
right.
You know
Like
what I mean?
the golden era when
Yeah,
piracy didn't feel wrong at first.
exactly. I mean, I was, you know, I justify it as like I was a kid in high school. I didn't have the money to, you know, to go buy movie tickets or like I don't know, like go to Blockbuster or something. So and it was just so available. So I watched a lot of, you know, like classic films or films that you see on message boards. Just like you got to see this, you got to see this. If you're you know, anything of a film connoisseur or something, it's like, oh, what's this? And, you know, find it online
Right. So you
somewhere.
had cinephiles giving you recommendations.
Yeah. Oh well, indirectly. Yeah. Just like
Indirectly, yeah.
on the internet. Yeah. Exactly.
But so were you watching like all eras and all genres and stuff? Did you like really become a did you really get into watching them at that age and learning from it and then replicating things at times?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I would see something like I would see an editing technique or like just because it kind of coincided watching these films coincided with how I was, you know, learning to do this stuff. Um, we really took, at least my friends and I, we really took like a more of an analytical eye, and then kind of like figuring out how things were done, and like why they shot that way. And it's the very early stages of film education and all that. So it's like, yeah, we that's when I started to see films differently, and kind of see it as like a puzzle, like a visual puzzle, but also like how to put a story together. At times during that time, like a lot of the craftsmanship kind of was more of the focus rather than the storytelling. But and then later on, it's like, all right, I've got these tools now. Now I got to focus on how to tell a story, because that's a completely different muscle. So yeah, it's like just an evolution of like seeing something that I liked, and trying to copy it, but then eventually kind of like start to define what my actual voice is, as a creative.
Yeah, and was that at Loyola, or when
Yeah, I
you
mean,
started developing your voice, or like was it even during high school?
I think it's like, early on, I think it was a lot of like trying to do things that I liked to watch, or I found something inspiring. It's like, what, I want to do something like that. So even in film school at Loyola. So I think it takes a little growing, at least for me, it takes a little growing out of things where it's like, should stop trying to be this thing, and just try to like tell the story that I want to tell, and that happened after college, just having the perspective that like I should stop telling stories that I feel that don't really connect with me. Valley was really the first project that I felt was coming from a place that I truly cared about. Um, it's about my hometown. It's about how I grew up. It's a coming of age thing, So that allowed me to really break free from, you know, doing projects I felt like people wanted to see, or like trying to hit a certain pocket.
And Loyola was undergrad film, yeah, or
Undergrad, yes, yes.
so in that program, and even before, but you were sort of being a crowd pleaser in a way, or you hadn't found, you weren't writing personal stories yet. You were.
I wasn't running like there was a resistance to that, actually. Like, yeah, I wouldn't call it like I was doing crowd pleasing work. It was more so that I was very impressionable. Like for instance, in college, like I really liked like these political thrillers. You know what I mean? And at that time I was watching a lot of that stuff, and just kind of like, it didn't have to be political, but like, it was just like thrillers that kind of were in a more clinical space almost. So I made like two projects that were kind of in that vein, or in that genre. But these weren't stories that like I truly connected to. It was just like I wanted to scratch that itch and make something like that, rather than like looking within myself, and saying like, this is a story that means something, or it's like I'm trying to say something, whether or not, I don't want to be didactic about anything that I tell, but I just wanted to kind of get to a certain like emotional truth. So that took a while for me to really like, you know um that's a place that it took a while for me to get to. Yeah, just put it that way.
And it sounds like the political thrillers, or the thriller, it sounds like you were, those were sort of exercises in a way. Like you were working on craft, working filmmaking takes so much knowledge. Really, there's so many, I think, I forget who I was talking to. Oh, I'm ashamed. Maybe it was Jake Whiston, but saying how film truly brings so many disciplines together. It's not just picture, it's not just sound, it's not just music. It's not, it's literally everything put together. It's writing, it's photography, it's music, it's editing. Yeah, there's so many disciplines that go into film. But there's a lot to grasp.
Yeah. No, that's totally right. I mean, it's a very diversified medium, and the image is just one part of it. The sound is one part of it. The story is one part of it. You kind of have to be firing on all cylinders to like to have the biggest impact for the story that you want to tell. But it's beautiful when all that stuff kind of like collides and works together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you emerged from your 4-year program and you still loved film after 4 years of that. And then was Valley the first thing that you wrote after school, or was there more?
It was not the first thing I wrote after school. I did write a few things and I did shoot a few things. But they were like I co-directed and co-wrote them with somebody else. And they were mostly comedies actually. So yeah, it's like a completely different space than my recent work. But I think although I enjoyed those projects, it wasn't like I don't know. Like when I finished those projects, I just felt like I didn't really feel like it didn't feel rewarding. And it's not because it wasn't like truly my own thing. It was just like again, I was telling stories that like that I don't know that I felt like I would forget that I would forget of my own volition down the road or something. Like it just didn't quite like stick with me in some way. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but
Allan is looking at my face like smile hugely after you said that, because I think that is stories that you forget is, I mean, as someone who programs 2 film festivals a year, like it is those memorable films that couple years later, I can talk to a jury member and say, remember the Ditch Day film, and they'll know it, right? Like it. I think you nailed every artist's greatest fear, which is like if the work doesn't mean something to them, it's not going to mean something to the audience, and it becomes forgettable.
that I think that there's some validity to that. At the same time, it's also like very subjective. Like something could mean something to me, but it might somebody might not really connect with it the same way. That's totally fine. But it's like at the very least, you want to be able to, you know, um, tell a story that means something to you, so that
Yeah, if it
everybody
means
else can
something
hate
to
it,
you,
but
right?
it's like it means something to you. Then
Right. If it
yeah,
means something to you, you've got a shot that it'll mean something to other people. But if you
exactly.
make a film and your heart's not in it, it doesn't mean something to you, then the odds of an audience being like, wow, that really meant something to me, it probably is not going to happen, right? It needs, but I totally respect just what you said, that, you know, not everything's for everyone, right? Like, just isn't. Like,
Right, right.
you can't worry about pleasing everybody. In fact, that's one of the things I love when I love disagreement over film. Actually, I think it's really cool when like a jury member will say to me, they love X film. And they're like, wow, I had a low rating on that. That's really interesting. I just love the subjectivity of it, and that
Yeah,
not everything's for everyone.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So you were collaborating, was that with one of the friends you grew up with, or was it with a film school friend, or the
Yeah, it's one of the
co-directing?
friends that I grew up with, but who incidentally went to the same school that I did. Um, I mean, we're still in contact and we still work together, but I think we've just reached a point where like we want to maybe tell the stories that we wanted to tell, and it's like a mutual respect, and again, it's not like we're not working together anymore. It's just
For
You
sure. And I
decided
mean,
to
I got to
take it in
say,
paths. So.
bravo to finishing 4 years of school and then going into the real world and continuing to create. Because, a lot of people don't pull it off or don't have the dedication.
No, it's tough. It's tough. Because I feel like a lot of people want to do it. It's just that, I think when you get out of school, you're out of that bubble, and resources become much more difficult, and you don't have like that bubble of peers that you can pull from and work on your, in your film and everything. So, yeah, you really have to want it and want to do it after that point. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm gonna throw you a Valley compliment again and say that, I mean, like, you going back to the topic of the story being meaningful to you, I think that is absolutely what I love about it. I think I probably in our Q&A for the festival mentioned how authentic it is and how, we identify with these two friends, on senior ditch day. Like, we I think it's because it's so sincere and because it's so authentic to what friendship is like. That's why, as an audience member, I just completely enjoy. It's just so emotionally rewarding to see something real like that, and it reminds you of your friends and who you grew up with and who you've lost and who you haven't lost, like not lost to death, although that's happened, but you know, friends drifting apart. It's human story. It's very human.
Thank you. But yeah, that was always the goal. Is that I wanted to create something that like with Valley, it was just a way to, in a way, recreate the joy of that time, of that of that high school time that I alluded to earlier. My own filmmaking journey and all that, but also kind of lend it the perspective, of an older version of myself. You know, yeah, like the biggest one of the inspirations for Valley actually is a recent film, well, fairly recent, Lady Bird. Greta Gerwig. That film affected me in a way. Like I'm not a, I didn't grow up as a teenage girl. I'm on the opposite spectrum, right? But there's that common ground. I think the biggest takeaway from that film for me is that, like, Lady Bird had to leave her hometown, Sacramento, in her case, in order to gain an appreciation of where she came from. The whole film, she wanted to get away. She wanted to go to New York, go to school in New York, never look back. But it was that homesickness, that drew her back and really made her appreciate Sacramento. And in a way, with the San Gabriel Valley, that to me, that's what Valley is. It's the two teenage characters. One wants to leave, one wants to stay. But sometimes it takes leaving to really understand what you've lost. You took your hometown for granted. There's a lot of good there, that a lot of memories that you created there that you might hate in the moment, but over time you kind of see things differently. So Valley, to me, that's really what it's about. And I think when I first came up with the idea of Valley, it preceded Lady Bird, but after seeing Lady Bird, like, I think that really formed what the theme was for me for that film. Yeah.
When you're making me think of your story, and for those who don't know, Loyola Marymount is in a really nice part. Well, it's in the heart of LA in a way. It's not even that far from the beach, and I imagine a lot of people who go to that school stay closer in, like, to here. But you did you contemplate, like, staying in the heart of LA and getting a shitty apartment and trying to make it as a filmmaker here, or was it like, what, I'm too practical. I'm going back to San Gabriel and I'm going to do my work there.
Yeah, I say that as if like I left the San Gabriel Valley and went to another state or something, but no, I really just went like an hour an hour west or something, right?
But an hour is an
but
hour.
exactly. The thing is, LA is so sprawling, right? And even if you live in a different part of town, it's like it could feel very different from another part of town, like just farther east or something like that. It feels like a small town almost. If you come from somewhere that's not part of LA proper or something like that. But yeah, the feeling's the same. I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that like if you're not staying with your parents, you feel like even if you're just down the street, you're not home or something like that. But so yeah, I mean, yeah, moving out west or whatever. In fact, right now I'm living in the San Fernando Valley. I'm in Studio City right now. I'm not, physically living in San Gabriel, but I go back all the time. But it's the same difference. Like you go back, you feel like you're back home or something. Even if it's just like a 30-minute drive.
How did I not know do you know I grew up in Studio City?
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was Sherman Oaks, but
I grew
maybe
up in
that's just
Studio City, but then
yeah.
I was away for, not that anyone cares, but I was away for 15, 20 years, and then I actually returned to the Valley and ended up in Sherman Oaks, which is, for those who don't know, Sherman Oaks and Studio City are side by side neighborhoods in the San Fernando Valley, which when you pass from one to the other, it's just crossing a street light. It's not, there's no identifiable change.
Exactly. True. I can attest to that, I suppose.
But that's cool. That's cool. You're out here now. Um, and after Valley, so Valley, I assume you shot it pre-COVID, and then
Mhm.
its festival run was in the land of lockdowns,
Yep. Hmm.
and then was Exits the. When did you know Exits would be the next project?
Um. Yeah, I think I cracked that story in December of 2020. Yeah. Before we got on this, before we started recording, I suppose, like we were talking, I mentioned that I went up to Oregon. So it was actually during that trip, in December 2020. I took a trip to Oregon, drove there, and I just hiked up the state. So it was one of those things where you're on the trail or whatever. Well, you're just kind of left to your own thoughts. But I knew I wanted to shoot something in the new year, 2021, at that point. Just didn't know what it would be. Yeah, it would be there. There's a lot of unknowns in terms of production, at least at that time, because we were still in the throes of peak COVID, and just knew I needed to make something that was like small crew, small cast, should be one location, and yeah, somehow I I was just thinking about my mom while I was on the trails. My mom passed away a couple of years ago, and it was in December. So usually around that time, I always, just can't help but think about, those things. And it's just one of those things where, like, I just felt like every year that goes by, I might lose a piece of my mom a little more, at least like mentally or something. And it just got, I don't know, the tangents just kind of went towards like, if somebody passes away, they're not literally gone. You're not. I mean, sure they are, but like to you, they may not be. So I think from those themes just kind of arose, you know, uh, exits. That was that's when I first cracked the story, and then like I got back from the trip, and then I just spent the weekend writing, and that's what came about from it.
Very
Was
cool.
exits.
Yeah, because it is about loss, and you were thinking
Yeah.
about a
Mhm.
personal loss, and but it's a very creative. For needless to say, I saw in 2021 a whole lot of films that were one or two people in a space. during COVID, shot during COVID, but not about COVID, but in that way. And I guess I don't know if we should worry about spoilers or not, but what you do with your two characters in that apartment, I think was just way more creative than the average shot in a bubble sort of film. Because it's a bit supernatural and it's a bit otherworldly and wonderfully shot.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you think so. I Yes, it was wonderfully shot. My DP in my work with Gun Valley as well, Sonny Wong. He's amazing. He creates things out of nothing, and makes me look good because of it. But yeah, I think the goal was to try to make something like tonally different than, especially in structure as well. Because I know there's like a lot of films about, two people in an apartment, two people in a space or something like that. I just wanted to see like, what I can do with my resources, which weren't many, but also kind of tell an interesting, I don't know, like story. I'm still not sure if that film works entirely. If I'm,
I know. I remember you saying that at the film festival in 2021, and there was I think there was a good crowd there that night, and I had praised it, and you're like, I don't know if this film works for me, and you had, I think, many members of the audience were like coming up to you and saying, I thought your film was, I think people truly appreciated it.
I hope so. I hope that's true. It's just one of those things where like I knew the limitations of it, and this structure is still kind of odd to me. And there's like things about it that like has always been there when I first put it to paper or whatever. That's never left to me. But it's like I just wanted to make something. I'm gonna make it and then see what happens, and try to create something that's maybe a little bizarre, but so yeah, I don't know. It's like it's almost, it still kind of remains like an experiment to me in terms of like experiment of tone, experiment of like performance, which the actors did fantastic jobs of. Kelly Lou Dennis and Jay Kimber, they both were amazing in it. But it's just a really weird way of kind of conveying dialogue, especially if they're just speaking in monologue form the entire time. So it's like I just feel like, I don't know, like maybe I don't know how I would have done it differently, but it's really hard to get out of my own head about like things that never quite gelled in script form for me. But anyway, I'm rambling. But
I know, no, it's honestly, it's a fascinating subject. I don't often find myself trying to talk people into liking their own work. But I also think there's actually, I'm not saying you don't like it, but it is interesting that something that strikes me as narratively sophisticated and showing a lot of intelligence and maturity and thoughtfulness. But hey, we already covered early in this podcast that not everything's for everyone.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So for you, in a way, I guess for you it was sort of a challenge project of making something before vaccines were common. I mean, things were still. It is funny to think about what the world was like in the first half of 2020 when you had to be in the military or over 70 to get a vaccine. I mean, it was a very limiting time. So you were certainly working with some serious limits.
Yeah, and so were a lot of people. I feel like at that time, if they were trying to make something. So yeah, it's like I don't think that project. It's one of those things where I don't think that project would have existed if it had COVID not existed or whatever. Because I don't think I would have naturally come up with that story. Like I probably would have tried to tell another story, and it would have been another film, in a different timeline or something like that. But because like I knew the limitations of what I needed to make a film at that time. Like my mind just kind of like funneled its way there, So
Well, what can I say? I think it shows a lot of talent and promise that I like it so much and other people liked it so much. I clearly remember audience members like coming up to you afterwards and telling you how much they liked it. So, and I continue to like it. I think it's very well. Hey, what can I say? Our awards jury liked it too. So,
no, we're very grateful. Thank you.
no worries, no worries. Yeah, okay, I'll stop harping on it. I apologize if I'm too
No, no,
stuck
no.
on it.
Not at all, not at all. It's just my own insecurities from that creative process that's kind of stuck. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do. I'm glad people like it. And people who have seen it like it. Some don't, and that's totally okay. But it's just like a weird personal, like, I don't know, feeling I'm holding on to for when I made it. That's all it is. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Well, have you been writing since then, or is there? Sounds like you're a very productive person. Or is there more coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, I think the next thing I want to make is actually a horror short. That I'm aiming to get it shot by the end of this year. That's the goal, at least. But I think that's very likely my next thing is a horror short.
Cool. And I know this is a leading question. I hope I'm not getting the wrong answer, but I mean, you're in Studio City. For those who don't, I mean, it's named Studio City because there's a TV studio there. And are you are you working jobs in the industry now and getting a toehold?
Yeah. My my day job, by trade, I'm actually a post producer. So I mostly work in television, and I'm currently working on a show. Technically, I'm still on the clock. I have my email right here, but I'm trying not to pay it any mind while we're talking here. But
And it is 9:20 p.m. So if anyone thinks, "Oh man, he's doing this in the middle of the day at work," no, it's just you're on the clock. But does that so post producer? So
yeah,
is it like not post production supervisor, but like just managing certain post things? Like,
yeah. It's. So I work on the show side. So I'm like directly connected to whatever show I'm working for. So yeah, like it's I don't personally do any of the editing. That's the editors and you know the, there's the assistant editors and everything, and there's post production supervisors part of my team. And under that is a coordinator and assist, I mean that's just the structure of what it is. But yeah, we basically just uh work specifically on the post production side of things for a given television show.
very cool. I'm happy for you. That sounds like a good gig.
Yeah, that's the route that my career has taken me. But that being said, it's like I'm always chasing to be on the creative side. So it's not necessarily my end game. Just have to keep sharpening those creative
Better
muscles.
oh man, this is I apologize to all the good people who who do this while they're pursuing their creative goals. But I mean, it sounds a little better than like being a barista or a bartender.
Look, I mean, it's the same thing. It's like, if somebody, whatever trade somebody's in, if they're a barista or bartender, usually, if they have a passion on the side that they're pursuing, it's really the same thing. Even though, like, you know, what I'm doing now is like adjacent to like writing or directing or what have you. It's really separate. It's really a separate part of that machine.
Right. And there's not things you're learning on the job that you can apply to your creative side because
There is, but it's like making the leap from where I am to like to the creative side of things is still a big leap because it's one of those things. It's funny because it's like you could work in the industry for a very long time, and whatever role that you've taken that's not necessarily creative, people only see you as that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
they don't
There,
see
there.
you as
It's like there's a block wall surrounding that writer's room.
right, right, or that director's chair or what have you. Right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you almost have to you really have to prove yourself from a creative standpoint, and because yeah, it's like they see you as if they see you as a post person, they see you as a post person. If you see it as like a props person, they see you as a props person. Even if your passion might be to like make that leap, it's still, again, it's like a very big leap that you know me and a lot of people are still trying to crack, especially if you want to be on that creative side. But again, that's beside the point. Um, short story is like I'm working in post right now, but which I love, but I want to pursue you know more creative roles in the industry. Hence why I'm making these short films and stuff.
Yeah. And do you just see yourself continuing to make shorts? Any thoughts about features and things, or it's it's
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah. The short films are an outlet to like because they just make more sense from like from a resource standpoint and just like at least for me, like some people can make indie features and they do. But for me, like I feel like, the short film format allows me to create different projects with different like vibes and tones and just kind of show what I can do and like, you know, allow me to sharpen those muscles. Like if I want to do a horror short, that'll help me learn what it takes to make horror. If I want to make coming of age thing, where it's like I can do that and not spend you know a larger amount of time or a larger amount of resources and money just for this one feature. At least that's my perspective. People are different, filmmakers are different, but as far as the feature side, I have written features just to say like I have done it and kind of understand like what goes into feature film writing. That's completely different from short film writing. The structure is different and how you use you know the amount of page you have very different. So again, it's just trying to do a little bit of, at least at this point, do a little bit of everything to make sure I know what I'm capable of. Yeah.
yeah. I've said to people before. I think one of the reasons why I enjoy shorts so much is a short. If if you have one really good idea, you can make a short. But if you want to
Mhm.
make a feature, you need so many good ideas to last that hour and a half. So
Right. Yeah.
it is a very different beast, and you know, but I'm happy for you that you're working in the industry and you're staying productive and doing things for yourself while you do something for while you were working full time. And are you at CBS Television Center over there? And is that where the show
But
is in Studio City?
no, actually, we're some post teams currently are remote. Some still going to the office, but we actually don't. My show doesn't shoot in LA. It shoots like out of state. So
Oh,
all the footage and our servers are all remote. So like I work from home and yeah,
that's
not on the
that's
studio lot or anything. Yeah,
that is Gil. That's pretty cool. That's I gotta say, I work from home too. I think it's a very cool thing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, can't really complain. Sometimes I do wish I had human contact, but
It gets tricky, right?
yeah,
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 that's for sure. Well, hey, we'll do another mixer. You'll have to come. Anything
for
else you
sure.
want to anything you want to mention? Is there a
Um, Not, I don't. Anything I want to mention? Well, if you want to follow my work, I suppose. I have a website, AllanZhangTran.com. ALLAN
Yeah, and
ZHANG
yeah,
TRA.
Zhang is Zhang. Yeah, I don't know if you wanted me to introduce you with Zhang. I just did Alan Tran.
Yeah, Allan. No, that's what I go by. It's only when I make films and put my name on it. That's my mom. That's my maiden name, so I just want to honor my mom. That's it. Yeah.
Excellent. Is there and uh and that's the website?
Yep. Just a very basic website, but I post, my work there and an upcoming work there. So,
And are you free of social media or do you do a little bit of it?
I do. I have an Instagram. Handle is Mr. Tranman. I don't post often, so not a very good follow, but I'm on there. Yeah.
Fair enough. I will wrap it up. I will get us out of here. First of all, you should see the film Valley. You should watch it. You should go to Amazon Prime Video, type in Discover Indie Film, and search for it, and watch Season 6, Episode 5, and enjoy Valley. It has a cool film, kind of a sci-fi film called Lifelike opens for it. And if you want to learn more about the podcast or the TV series that was born out of it, you just go to discoverindiefilm.com. And on social media, it's at DIFWins. By the way, I didn't beg people to like and subscribe and give 5 stars, but please like and subscribe to the podcast. If you watch the show on Prime Video, take the time to go to Amazon.com and give the TV series 5 stars. Allan's had 2 films 2 years in a row at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival. If you want to learn more about it, go to ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at ShermanOaksFF on social media. Its sister festival that we hold every June is Film Invasion Los Angeles. You can learn more about that if you go to FilmInvasionLA.com, and it's at FilmInvasionLA on social media. Allan Tran, it was a pleasure to talk to you.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for listening.